welcome to our coaching this morning, this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, on the stress blood sugar connection and how to safeguard your health and well-being naturally. Now, April is National Stress Awareness Month, and this could not be more timely. So I wanted to inspire you, provide you more information, and uplevel your diabetes IQ and education on how stress affects our blood sugar levels, because the connection is often overlooked or missed. So often it's rarely discussed in appointments with our healthcare professionals. And in fact, less than 2% of the time, our research shows us that it's ever discussed. So the training in our medical systems and in our healthcare systems don't always provide for the training, and that's why this is so important. So, as diabetes can be so relentless, and it can be overwhelming to manage despite following all of the recommendations and directives from our healthcare teams. So, even if you're following them to a T, we can be out of our preferred target range and we can have less than desirable blood sugars. So, let's talk about that connection of stress and diabetes. Because often you can feel worried, you can have anxiety, you can be concerned, feeling lost, alone, and hopeless, and helpless. And we don't want that. So, what you may not know is these types of feelings and emotions fall under the stress category in our life. And it's often one of the main reasons that people living with diabetes can feel so powerless in the face of things. You can be eating all the right things, you can be doing your movements every day, and you can be putting so much energy and effort into what you do, and yet if stress is overwhelming your body, it can create that havoc. So there's always a surprising fact with my clients and our members of our membership club and in our VIP programs and in our flagship programs. And I just want you to know that the next level education that you can arm yourself with is right here in this webinar regarding stress. So as a doctor of holistic medicine and as a woman living vibrantly well over the past 29 years, despite having diabetes, I want to help you today. So let's jump right on in with our agenda and let's get started, okay? So when it comes to diabetes and what we're going to learn today, we are going to learn all about what is diabetes, what is stress, how does stress, what types of stress are there? There are invisible, there are visible. What are stress-related health issues as they relate to diabetes? And what kind of complications can that lead to? How do we disarm stress? And what are two proven ways that we can relieve stress and the effects that it has on our blood sugars? So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, what is diabetes? So diabetes is when your body either doesn't make enough insulin or it can't use the insulin that it has as well as it needs to. And that's when there's receptor cell interference. That's when there's that insulin resistance. And you've been hearing that type 2 diabetes is really the resistance in your body to the insulin. And so it doesn't matter what type of diabetes that you do have, there's many types of diabetes. There's pre-diabetes, gestational diabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 1, type 1.5. There's even 2, 3, and 4. So when we're talking about diabetes, insulin resistance can affect and does affect people with all types of diabetes. It's just more oftenly talked about with type 2 diabetes. So when, like I said, when there's not enough insulin or when your cells stop responding to insulin the way that they need to, and the sugar stays in your bloodstream, what happens inevitably over time is it can lead to serious health complications and unwanted and unwelcome consequences. And that's definitely not what we want. Diabetes is so prevalent, it's considered the world's #1 pandemic. So let's move forward and just talk about what that looks like. So it's a pandemic because it affects just under, and depending what research you read, 500 million adults worldwide. And when you look at these projections of what's going to happen over the next, by 2045, we are looking at it soaring way past 700 million. So this is the source here is from the International Diabetes Federation from 2019. So let's take a look more on what our topic is, which is stress and what that means in your body. So what is stress? Stress is that thing, and there are good stresses I would like to point out, and then there are challenging stresses that are negative. Now, stress is a consistent sense of feeling pressure, overwhelm, that leads to many other feelings. Mental tension can cause difficult situations. The human response that prompts us to address challenges and our body's natural reaction is a fight or flight. So, when it comes to meeting our daily challenges, just getting through our days and motivating us to reach our goals, ultimately, we want to be happy, healthy people. So, there, like I said, good stresses, and then there can be tormenting stresses. The problem is recognizing the type of stress and finding ways to de-stress, which is why we're giving solutions right here in this training today. So there's strategies and techniques to help you to relieve yourself of some stress, and better yet, to help you even prevent stress from affecting you so that it doesn't affect your physical health, your mental or emotional health, and your spiritual well-being. So stats show us a very different story. Let's take a look at this and dive in. The increase in stress, and I want to point out here that the red is 2023 and that the black is 2019. When we look at leading causes of stress, we are looking at our finances. We're looking at what's happening in the economy. We're looking at housing and living costs. We're looking at health and personal safety. And we can see in the red in all of these that there has been a significant incremental increase. So diabetes and mental health. Let's take a look into this. According to Diabetes Canada, and you can even see this in some of our American reports, living with diabetes can be burdensome and anxiety provoking. And I'm sure so many of you, because in so many of our trainings, we hear people talking about, we hear like we're feeling and hitting a brick wall over and over again. And if that's you, I get it. I have felt that way too. So the constant demands of having to care for an illness can take a psychological toll. And as a result, many people struggle to accept the diagnosis and or the proposed treatment plan, or they may delay activities, or they may just be not having the information that they need to help propel them forward with healing, safety, and stability, and being in target range. So irrespective of what type of diabetes you have, it doesn't matter. It can be a significant burden, and relief can feel sometimes like it's not coming. And diabetes is relentless. It is on 24/7. It doesn't take a vacation. It doesn't take a minute off. For example, research has shown that people who live with type 1 diabetes must make an estimated 180 healthcare decisions each and every day. That's a lot of mental real estate at work. Now, top that off with daily stressors, and we've got a perfect storm for high and even low blood sugars, which can be life-threatening. You want to be able to let go of stresses that are not your friends. So how does this help you? Let's take a look at this chart. Or how does this, affect you? It can affect you, obviously, in your thinking and your moods. It can lead to other ways of coping, which can include other type of addictive disorders as well. It can affect your sleep cycle, your intimacy cycle. It can lead to anxiety around meal times, grocery shopping, eating out, feeding, things like this. And also, disorders can come into that whole eating realm. Then there's also trauma and stressor related disorders. You can become obsessive compulsive as well. And like I said, anxiety is probably one of the most common. And then, of course, those mood elevations, depending on also other conditions you may have. So many people are also, when they experience diabetes, also experience issues with thyroid. And so that can lead to changes in different hormones and can lead to beyond mood disorders into depressive disorders. So things to be aware of. Now, what are some of the causes of stress in our everyday life? Now, there's going to be things that you'll be readily knowing about, and there will be things that are more invisible. The increasing demands that we may have at work, with all of the other pandemics going on in the world with new viruses and illnesses and healing, there can be so many demands on our body physically. And what about the new businesses people are starting? What about the businesses that haven't survived through the last several years? What about things like being stuck in traffic, taking care of children, and or even aging parents, let alone ourselves? maybe we think about not just today, how is our diabetes affecting us, but how is our every tomorrow and our future? What does our future look like? So there's these many stresses, and they're very real. There's other stresses like plastics that are in our meals, that and the containers that we have, and the bottled waters that so many people drink, the processed foods that have unnatural ingredients, chemicals, dyes, excess sodium, nitrites. There's the noise pollution very much in our world, especially with construction sites and just the running of automotive and things like traffic, the pollution from exhaust fumes, the electromagnetic fields of cell towers. And I've experienced in our own family the glioblastoma multiforme, where there's been so much of those cell wave contaminations polluting the brain that it can totally disrupt and lead to cancerous diagnosis. Now, the question is, how are these stressors, if you're even aware of them, affecting you? Are they disrupting your hormones? And how do you know? So many times people talking on their cell phones, so many times moms walking with their children in strollers with their cell phones attached to the top of the handle that they're pushing. And it's so dangerous. So when you're at conventions, when you're at work, when you're on public transit, you're in areas where you're bombarded with multiple cell phone waves and different computer waves. So when we're bombarded all day long, our bodies aren't designed to handle that type of stress. So something, again, to be very much aware of. So the physiology of stress response, what happens when you experience stress? Your body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And cortisol stimulates your liver to release glucose into the blood. And that can raise your blood sugar levels. Not just that, but adrenaline can increase your heart rate and can contribute to elevated blood pressure and blood sugars. So when you're not preventing stress or relieving stress, this stress is in your body. And in overstress, overload of stress, then leads to stress-related health issues, and it can become a very vicious cycle. Well, what can that look like? What can that feel like? Stress-related health issues can include things like heart issues, heart attack. And people with diabetes are more likely to develop heart attack, number one, at a younger age, and they're 3 times more likely to have heart disease and have that be a result of end of life for them. So stress triggers inflammation within your body, and these are so closely associated and detrimental to our heart health and elevated blood pressure. So what we want to do is we want to get in front of those numbers. But your heart is just one thing that's affected. How else can stress affect you? Let's take a closer look. Stress-related health issues can include things like muscle tension, digestive disturbances. This can even result in headaches, and they can be migraine headaches. They can be low-grade headaches. They can be fatigue, weight gain and or weight loss. And this can interfere with your quality of sleep. You can have trouble getting to sleep and staying asleep. And this also will influence your healing and immune system. And this can make you more susceptible not to just bugs and viruses, but to more serious things like cancers as well. So, stress is related and common in all the 7 top diseases, including diabetes, and how it affects you and interferes with your quality of life and longevity, your independence, and your ability to cope and heal. So stress is known to cause irreversible damage. So what we want to do is have you become more aware of what symptoms of stress you might have. So when we're talking about what symptoms of stress might you have, and I just want to come out here on screen, I want you to heighten your awareness. I want you to become aware and be in tune with your body and listen and hear what your body is telling you. So if you're feeling off, if you're feeling palpitations, if you feel it, you should be checking your blood pressure. If you notice blood sugars are higher at certain times, there may be triggers that you can identify with that. And that's a process, but it's a very valuable process, journaling and writing these things down so that when things take an emotional or stressful turn, that you can identify what some of those triggers or contributing factors are. Very important. And for everyone, it can be different. So it's very important to become consciously aware of your environment, of what's happening in your environment, people in your environment, products in your environment, and times of day even. So I want to put that out there because it's really super important to help you identify times of day and triggers. So we're going to go back to our share screen now. So I want you to take some time, and even if you want to journal some of your own symptoms and when they're occurring, this is very important. These can make you feel more tired than usual, more hyper than usual. This can actually make you want to sleep. There's so many different ways this can affect you. So I want you to look at the irreversible damage caused by chronic stress. And chronic stress is stress that builds up over time. So when we look at stressful experiences, they can actually age the brain by 4 years. Now, I want to get excited about this, and I want you to get excited about this because one example of stressful experiences is the prolonged stress of an activity. And what that will do is it will increase your survival focused mode. So in other words, stress can rewire your brain. And as you can see right here, you can see the difference between the left side and the right side. And the actual brain scan is showing irreversible damage. They're showing on the right. So what we want to be able to do is we want to identify our triggers, our stress triggers, and we want to be able to diffuse them. And we want to be empowered to disarm them. Let's dive in and take a closer look of the effects with stress and how that can show up in blood sugar readings. Now, I want to point out that different stresses can actually heighten blood sugar numbers, while other stresses can actually lower blood sugar numbers. So here's what your sugars can look like during a stressful experience. Now imagine how often this spike occurs when you're facing typical and hidden stressors, like we've just been talking about. So when your body's under this kind of stress, the adrenal glands trigger the release of glucose, which is stored in various organs. And that often leads, like right here, to elevated glucose levels in your bloodstream. Now, like I said, stress can also lower blood sugars. And we actually asked this question in our Facebook group community in our Trivia Tuesday just recently. And I want to share with you that for me, when I travel, so when I'm boarding a flight, I'm going through time zones. For me, when I travel, my blood sugars go very low. As a matter of fact, I need to be very careful because I need to alter and be very aware of how low my sugars go. So there's a difference of about 35 to 50% lower that my sugars will go. And that's very important to be aware of for yourself. So that's something I've identified for myself. You may be able to identify other stressful situations or things that are out of the ordinary norm that you might not even consider might be affecting you, but they are. So again, identifying. Now, the effects of stress and diabetes. When experiencing stress, your body is told to get its fuel, your glucose levels up in preparation for a lot of physical and mental activity. Your body's already preparing in this way for the most part. Now, mental challenges can bring this on as well as physical. So even when you're eating all the right foods and even when you're getting in your physical movement, your sugars can still go high. And like I said, stress is a major contributor. Now, when we're looking at regaining normal blood sugar levels, that can be problematic for you when you have diabetes because sometimes it can fall into normal, but erratic highs and lows and being on that roller coaster, trying to get it balanced is often how it shows up for people. If you've experienced that, this may be due to stress. And persistent stress can result in not just adrenal fatigue, but it can actually move into adrenal failure. Very important to be aware of this. So it's critical to get in front of stress, to diffuse it, especially when you have diabetes. And when you experience stress over and over again throughout the day and it's persistent, this is when this can result because your cortisol and your adrenaline are in overdrive exhaustion. And what happens is, and you need these stress hormones to survive. And that's why when you have diabetes, you want to really look at disarming stress. And sometimes we look at things like medications to help reduce symptoms of stress, as well as blood sugar, but they can have adverse effects. And stress itself can have adverse effects, things like nausea, gastrointestinal disturbances, and discomfort. In fact, even abdominal pain. You can have skin reactions. You can have allergic reactions. You can have your liver be affected and become inflamed. And of course, your kidneys can be affected. So medication has become the norm in our society today. While they seem to be doing what you need them to do, the big question is what's happening inside your body and what's happening to your organs. So diabetes also raises your risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is prevalent. And that's where fat builds up in your liver. And even if you drink little to no alcohol, at least half of people living with type 2 diabetes have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So something very much to be aware of. Now, medicines can also challenge your liver and your kidneys, especially when you take them for a long time, and that can lead to acute kidney injury. So what we want to be able to do is be as natural as possible with our solutions. So what happens when stress is paired with diabetes? Now, the link between stress and diabetes, as we promised you in this training. So what happens is when your blood sugars go haywire, it can really throw your body off balance and cause heightened internal stress, heightened internal inflammation. So think of it as your body constantly trying to find center, its balance, but it's always being pushed outside of its comfort zone. So the balance can't be achieved. Now, on the flip side, other stressors can mess with your body's natural regulatory systems. And so that's like with your hypothalamic pituitary system, which is your response system, your stress response system, it can be overloaded. It's when we have an emergency in the world and we have all of our first line defenders, our police officers, our firefighters, and we have everyone there. Sometimes we have to call in the National Guard for that extra support. Now, our bodies can't call in the National Guard for extra support. Our bodies need to be taken very seriously because prevention and being in the moment is probably our best defense. So things like electrolytes, keeping our ketones in place. We don't want to shut down any of our organs or our systems. And we don't want our blood pressure, blood sugars to become so high. We don't want that chain reaction. And what does that chain reaction look like? The link between stress and diabetes. When you're stressed, you can go all over the place with blood sugars and not really know where you're at any given time. When they're low, they can go low. And there's some best self-care practices for low sugars. And when they go high, they can go high. And they can go back and forth with that roller coaster. So if you're experiencing these types of symptoms and you aren't quite sure what's going on, it could be stress. And here's the good news about what we're talking about today. There are 2 natural, holistic, proven solutions that you can do so that you don't have to have that domino effect. And the first proven holistic solution is prevention. Prevention is the best that we can do. And that's something that I advocate in every one of my trainings, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a live event, whether it's a masterclass, whether it's a VIP training, whether it's an inner circle membership training, whether it's our Facebook group training. So not many people test and track their blood sugar levels to the degree that they can get the information that can fuel them and empower them to make choices that allow them to identify their triggers. This is something I advocate, like I said, and checking your blood sugars is like having a window into your body's health. It gives you valuable information about where you are at any given moment and what occurs when. And then those whens are the times when it can be levels of stress that might elevate your blood sugar levels, or like in the information and example I gave you, can lower them. So what I want to be able to do is I want to give you some proactive steps that you can take to stay clear of complications and really be able to have that balance. So I'm putting the spotlight on 2 particular proven holistic approaches to preventing stress from affecting your health. So what are they? Number one, time management. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. Just like food. You can have it, but you just can't have it all at once. So time management, super, super, super important. So the holistic self-care solution about time management is really about not everything is going to be 100% priority task or a priority to do. So when it comes to time management, it enables you to identify and prioritize which tasks or which things that are important to you require your attention. It doesn't have to be a long, overwhelming list. And that's what time management here is all about. So it's about giving yourself sufficient time to do what you need to do, but it's also allocating adequate time for each activity so that you're not rushed and that you're not adding more stress. We want to avoid overwhelm. We want to avoid stress. And those two can compound one another. We want to prioritize things that are important. We don't want to overload ourselves with too many tasks, and we want to give ourselves the sufficient time that it takes. The other thing about this that we want to do is we want to have a structured approach to time management, because that's going to help maintain that sense of control that you have over your daily life and leading to reduced stress levels, which then gives you that increased level of feeling empowered in your life. So I have hired coaches. I work with multiple coaches right now that are health related and business related. And the difference in having a coach leading me helps me fast track things much faster, I'd say by 200 to 300%. So when it comes to breaking through different stressors, or when it comes through how to prioritize priorities and really what's not even important at the end of the day, is super important to work through those things. Meeting deadlines is another thing that can create stress. So it's really about not procrastinating, getting to what you have to do and not doing more than what is required as well, because there always is that perfectionism that people can have. So when it comes to time management, you want to create space for time for you and self-care. You want to be able to schedule a break, a leisure time, a walk, a rest. You want to promote relaxation and self-care for yourself, because why? In your time management, that's going to help you reduce stress, and it's going to promote overall healing. So now that we've talked about time management, let's dive into our second holistic self-care solution. And it's a diabetes-friendly beverage with 2 proven stress-reducing ingredients. And I can't tell you how powerful curcumin found in turmeric is. And this is actually what the roots look like. You can buy them in any store. Health food stores have them for sure. Some of your grocery stores will have them as well. And they're amazing small roots. And they have the ability to reduce mood and anxiety. Their nutrients cross the blood-brain barrier. So that's where it exhibits various neuroprotective effects. And that's where that can affect your mood and anxiety. So how do you use it? There's lots of potassium in lemons. So if you have issues with kidneys, beware. But this supports brain and nerve function and enhances alertness. So what you want to be able to do is enjoy those feel-good hormones too. Let's see, how do you put them together and reduce your stress levels? So it's really about, imagine what can happen for you when you combine turmeric, curcumin, and lemon. You have a super stress busting beverage on your hands. And this is one best self-care practice here at Holistic Diabetes Solutions that we give to help you reduce inflammation, increase insulin sensitivity, help with your heart health, and of course, the digestion in your body. And others also like to add things like ginger, which is another powerful antioxidant. So you'd want to sip this throughout the day to keep your inflammation and your stress at bay. Now, how do you get these how-tos? I want you to grab the how-to steps right here. You can scan this with your phone, or you can go right here to holisticdiabetessolutions.com, the blood-sugar.balance with less stress. So I invite you to take that next step towards a healthier, more balanced life by saying no to stress, starting today, and unlock the secrets to stress prevention and reduction with these 2 best self-care practices. Like I said, you can use your phone and scan this with the QR code, or you know what? You can just come here to Holistic Diabetes Solutions, to our website, and just empower yourself today with these fun and effective, proven holistic self-care programs. So know that we share beautiful tips like this as well in our Facebook group, in our Inner Circle membership, and in our flagship programs. So I want to say thank you for joining. I want you to enjoy excellent, stress-free living. And congratulations to you for attending our session today, because that means you're seeking the natural proven solutions to help you lower and balance your blood sugars naturally and to get you back in the driver's seat of your health. You can get even more support at any given time with any of the links. So come check us out. And until next time, be well and have a healing day.